Welcome to this SolidEdge video on creating slots with curved profiles, progressive ends, etc. So what I want to do, I'm going to do a sketch. I'm going to show us a couple of different ways of sketching to get the appropriate profile that we want. So it's kind of like where we've got something that's going to kind of drop into a little kind of notch. So for this one, I'm going to do a line. I use the A to get my arc key and then do another line. This line on the end is actually going to be a construction line, so I'm going to go and turn that into construction. I'm going to smart dimension the line up and smart dimension that line both linear and for angular dimension, just using the A key on there. So that controls our arc shape. I'm just going to go and get this constrained up on here reasonably. So let's just go and get that to there. Drag him over there. Okay, so now we've got that. This end's all good. So I'm just going to go make it a bit more sensible. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go and take this curve, and we're going to go and convert this from an analytic curve. So it's a curve that's got a radius and a sweep, and we're going to turn this into a curve or a spline, whatever you want to call that. So if we click on that now, you'll see that our little command bar comes up with all of our spline options. So if we want more control on here, we can go in here and we can go and change our degree. But I actually just want that 1 point on here, so I'm happy the way that is. So next I'm going to go and use my distance between. This allows us to select key points. So I can now go and create the distance between there and there. So let's go and do that, 40. I can then go and do the same between there and there. Make sure this is on by 2 points here. If we've got any problems, that might be causing the issue. Go and snap that up to there. Let's go 30 on there. Okay, so now you can see that that is now fully defined. If I go and change this 25 down to 10 degrees, you can see how we've got that kind of that tighter sweep up on there. If I go and change that to 20, you can see how we've got a real progressive curve. So whatever goes and clicks into that position is going to be nice. Obviously, if you want to put it up flat, problem, we just obviously split this and turn that into a little flat on there, but I want that just to go and drop straight down into there, and that gives us a real nice option to control and get that exactly the way that we need that on there. Okay, if I find this isn't working properly and this isn't linked up, obviously we can do horizontal and verticals to go and link that. So I can do horizontal vertical to there to get that linked up there. And then for this one, another reason for the construction line is I can now use that and I can go and connect that to the construction line. So that is going to be creating a point-on connection to that construction line. So even though you don't really need that, if you've got more control points, that can be really useful. Okay, so that's the first one. So let's go and create our second one. So let's just stay on a sketch view. So this time I'm going to go and create a line. So I'm going to do this same size as that one. I'm going to snap that down, so we'll go and have that the same as that. We'll go and dimension that. We'll do that the same. We'll go and snap that to that one and do 100. It didn't actually create that link, so I'll leave that as it is. We'll do that one to end pointer there. Could use the E key for that as well. And then this time we're going to do a ellipse. For this I want to do a center point. So I'm going to hover over the end of the line, move down, so we get our connection point, click on the end of the line, and then go and create our ellipse. So that is the kind of shape that we want on there. I then want to go and trim this lip, so I'm just going to do a line from the quadrant point, silhouette point on the left to the center, and then back up to the top. Use my trim command, trim that, and trim those two, just using the scribe command on there. So if we go back to select and click on this line and click on this little end point, you'll see that that is actually retained, that is actually part. You can see that we've got our silhouette points showing, we've got our center points. So if I want to go and constrain this now, we need to do a horizontal and vertical. So I'm still on 2 points, use a shift key, that switches it between 2 points and horizontal vertical. So a nice little trick if you don't do that, right click to finish that one, and then do the same on there, 2 points, shift key, and then place that. We also need an existing dimension between this endpoint and the centroid. So if we go and do that one and go and do a vertical dimension on there, that's going to allow us to go and have that point on there. So if I go and set these to reasonable sizes, So you can see here as we go and change this, we're going to get that closer on there. If I go and reduce this, so if I go and take that to 2, and then go and reduce this to 20, we've got quite a nice kind of progressive curve, similar to what we've got on the one above on there. So we'll change that to 40. That's going to kind of represent that very similar. If we don't know what we if it's not fully defined, we can go and check why that is or why that isn't fully defined on there. So you can see that we've got some links on there. We've got our length of that line. So I'm just gonna go and change the way that this is constrained. So we've got that constrained on there. We've got that direction on there. If we click on that and go and move that, you can see that we can move our centroid on there. So on that one, if we do a horizontal vertical between the endpoint of there and the centroid of the ellipse, that has now got that fully constrained on there. So I'm just going to go and change that on there. So we've got that progression, and let's go 38. Okay, so we've got the shape that we need. Obviously, if we did want that little line, as I mentioned earlier, we can go and create that, making sure that we've got the appropriate relationship. So if I kind of move the mouse, you can see that that is now creating that with the appropriate tangency. If I then dimension that, you can see that is fully defined, and that is going to go and follow that as we go and make these changes. So you can see that line is going to go and move as we go and do this. So obviously, if I do a more substantial change on there, I'm just going to go back to 5. So we've got that on there. So if we do need that to have a nice long drop in, or maybe even a short one actually on there, that's going to show that on there. Okay, so we've got our 2 profiles. Let's have a look at creating the slots for these now. So I'm going to go and close these sketches. I'm going to finish, and if we've done that, just make sure we do a save on there. So quite often people will go and do a cutout, and they'll try and do a symmetric offset. When you've got curves like these, symmetric offsets are always going to be a pain, and they're not going to work brilliantly. So SolidEdge is coming and telling me, well, let's have a go at using the slot command. So if we use the slot command, we can choose select from sketch on there. If you don't know if you don't have this, slot command is also available in here. This little toolbar as well. If you use the up and down keys, that will tend to go and switch these between the different options on there. So that can be really useful. There's a lot of keyboard shortcuts that aren't always obvious. So we're going to do select from sketch. We're going to choose chain, hover over and see what we pick up. So we're going to choose this first one on there. Obviously it's not selecting our construction element because we're not going to use that one. We're going to accept that. I go into my slot options. So I want a 20mm slot, perfect. Make sure that's down. Obviously if the slot fails, it means that our progressive end on there is going to be going and causing that kind of problem on there. Once we've done that slot, remember we can always do dynamic edit and go and change these. So if that looks loads smaller than I really wanted it to, so I can go and change that. Let's go and change that to 35 on there. That's kind of looking like it wants. Well, maybe I want that to be even tighter at the end as well. So let's go and set that down to there. That one doesn't matter on there. Okay, so that's given us our slot profile. Okay, the second option we can do is we can use multi-body modeling. So we can go and create a tool. So I can go and create a cutting tool, which we're going to go and use for this. So for this, I'm going to go to tools and I'm going to switch to. So I'm just going to go and create a cylinder. So in this, it's easier if we do that in the part environment. Okay, so before we create this, we're going to go and make sure that we add this as a design body. Okay, so if you do forget to do that, you will have to go back and redo it. There may be an option later in a newer version where we can do that at the end, which will be nice. Fingers crossed that we get that. So we're going to do revolve. We're going to go and choose plane normal to curve, so this tool always stays at the end of that curve then. Obviously I could use the T to toggle that to go the other way on there. I like to sketch kind of like in a kind of 3D style, so just press that middle mouse button and kind of spin that round on there. And then I'm going to go and start a line on the center, and I tap the S key. That's going to create a symmetric line. It's going to allow me to go and create my appropriate profile on here, across there. I'm going to go and dimension this up using symmetric diameter. So select the center point and then the outside edge. That's going to give me the overall symmetric size. So that's my 50. The height doesn't matter on this one, but I'm just going to go and do that. I'm just going to go 20 mil on there. And then when we close that sketch, if we haven't done our axis of revolution, make sure we do that. So if this option comes up, validate allows you to revalidate. It's just done that, so we don't into that. Valve feature will get rid of it. Sketch will turn this into a sketch. So for this, I'm just going to do a red cross, and I'm going to go onto here and go axis of revolution is this line, and it's going to turn it into my axis of revolution line. So if I now close that sketch, it's going to spin back around to my original view, and then we've got several choices, but the one that we want is this revolve 360, and that has now created that as my revolve on there. So now we've got two design bodies. We've got our sheet metal and our normal one. So if we double click back on the design body one in the in sheet metal, that will take us back into the sheet metal environment. You will find if you do this quite a bit, this little switch to will end up here, but you can see I've actually added mine up here. So if we need to do a switch to, we can easily just switch between those environments. But remember, the design body option also will allow us to go and switch into the appropriate environment that was created in. So for this now, we're going to have a look at another command. So we do actually need to switch to. I'm just going to go back. So what we're going to do, we're looking for this solid sweep. So sadly, those that aren't on a foundation or above license aren't going to have this, but it's a great little tool. So for this, we choose our path. So I've got my chain. I'm going to accept that. The next one is my tool. So that's the tool that I want to use to go and cut this. Axis of revolution has been picked up automatically. If you've got a part that may have a couple of different cylinders, you're going to need to go and define that yourself. And then that's then going to go and cut that material. And then we click finish and cancel on that. And that has gone and created that cutout on there. I'm just going to double check and make sure that design body is okay. Okay, I've got a bit of a graphics issue, so I'm just going to have a look at that and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so I've gone and made a little change on here. So we can see we've got our protrusion on here. What that was doing, because that was 50, that was causing a bit of an issue where it comes around this corner. So if I go and set that to 50, if I also have a look at this sketch and have a look at the sizes we've got on here. So what I want to do, I'm just going to go and increase these. So I want to go 80 and let's go 50 on that one. So that's got my shape on there. So now if we go and do our solid sweep, so make sure our sheet metal is active, choose our path, accept, choose our body, and then it's 3 accepts on there for that to go and work on there, and that's going to be okay. So what it was doing at this point where it's going progressive, it was kind of, it couldn't calculate because all the sizes were a little bit too small on there. So if we go and have a look at this, if we go to the sketch on there, we go and kind of change this size down, you'll see as we go and make these changes, we're starting to produce this sharp point. And once we get down to a certain version, it's obviously going to fail, but at that one point it managed to kind of do something really strange on there. So for that, if I go and drop that back up to 40, we know that works. But really we need to go and take this protrusion down to the size we actually want. So I want to go and take that down to 25. And we've got that much better corner on there. So we do need to think about what this is looking like before we actually go and create that. So hopefully you're able to follow that. And a useful little option. So got a little runner running down on there, and then drops in or goes and seals up nicely. If that's what we're using this for. Hopefully useful. Thank you.